Yeah, let's get started. Okay.
All right, I'll do the first couple slides to kind of introduce things, and then Alberto, I'll let you talk all about the program. And then I've got a couple slides at the end that I'll talk about. So
super. Okay.
But yeah, so here, Alberto Cole is our faculty program director from the College of Law, who's going to do most of the talking in a minute here. And then I work in our study abroad office, and I'm helping manage some of the back end logistics here of this program. My name's Scott Ozorowski. And then in terms of the coursework, and I'll kind of have you talk about that, Alberto. This is open to law students, but also undergraduate students as well, and graduate students. So these are the two courses that the law students take up top, and they get semester credits for those. And for undergraduate students, it's two different courses. You're doing the same program, but you get courses in undergraduate level. And one of the courses gets rid of your SCBI domain, and the second course gets rid of your philosophical inquiry domain. Yeah, so that was just kind of how I wanted to start things. But then, yeah, why don't you take it away, Alberto, and we can go from there. Actually, let me do one more slide here.
Okay.
Just with some dates and some other information that he's going to talk about as well. We have got the program dates are July 14th to August 4th. We do have a partner institution in Costa Rica who we work with, and then a couple different accommodations that he's going to talk about. Host families in Costa Rica or self-arranged housing. So yeah, so now I will stop my share and let you start talking for a bit.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Some of you I've had the pleasure of meeting before. Others I haven't. So we haven't met before. It's a great pleasure to see you, see at least your faces here on Zoom. And my name is Alberto Cole. And I have been running this program since 2005. So it's a long time. And we've been running it very successfully. The last 2 years, we did not do it because of COVID. So we didn't do it in 2020 or 2021. But we're ready to take off again. And the idea of the program is to give you, in the space of about 3 weeks and a couple of days, a deep and thorough exposure to international human rights law in the context of Latin America. And I think passionately believe Latin America is fundamentally important to us because they're so close to us. They're so close to us geographically. Geography does matter in the world, but they're also close to us culturally, humanly, socially, in so many profound ways. So the idea is for the students who participate in this program to come out of it with a very good understanding of international human rights law, some of the basic principles of international human rights law, and then how they play out in the very complex context of Latin America, which would include, Central America, as well as South America, another part of the world that, we don't talk much about. My partner in this endeavor is Professor Victor Rodriguez. He would have wanted to be with us today, but he couldn't. He's very busy right now doing some complaints to the United Nations Human Rights Council rapporteurs. Okay, so he couldn't be here. Victor Rodriguez is one of Latin America's leading human rights lawyers and activists, and he heads an NGO called IRRESOD. And IRRESOD has offices in Mexico, in Costa Rica, in Colombia, and they're opening up some in Brazil now. And their job is to present human rights complaints from all over the region to the UN, United Nations Human Rights Council. And the UN Human Rights Council has a system of about 38 rapporteurs on different subjects, all the way from domestic violence through racial discrimination, economic freedom, labor protection, free speech, judicial independence, lots of key human rights issues. And so Professor Rodriguez heads this NGO that actually is always busy bringing up these complaints to the UN Human Rights Council. His NGO is also very busy working cases through the inter-American system. So one thing that we look at very closely in this course is the fact that Latin America, together with Europe, is the only part of the world that has actually a regional human rights system, meaning it has a regional human rights treaty that most states have signed and ratified, and it actually has its own human rights court, an international regional human rights court. In Europe, it's called the European Court of Human Rights. Here in the Americas is known as the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, which is based in San Jose, Costa Rica, where we're going. Asia doesn't have, a human rights court. There are many parts of the world that don't have, Middle East certainly also doesn't have a human rights court, but the Americas do. So one of the things you're going to learn in his course is how to take a case all the way from the complaint phase to the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. And so his course is very much focused on practical legal advocacy. You'll get a close look at what being a lawyer involves in terms of advocating for human rights and in terms of, very basic legal skills. As part of the course and as part of the program, we visit a number of institutions. So a typical day in the program involves, we have classes roughly from 9 in the morning till about 2:30 in the afternoon. And then, you go home and you read, if you have a little bit of sightseeing you might want to do in the middle of the week, you could do that. Sometimes in the evenings, we get together informally as a group and we have dinner together. Costa Rica's dining options are very reasonably priced. So we'll say, okay, tonight, let's get together at this little place and have some dinner together. And, whoever wants to show up, shows up, and we have dinner together. A couple of these dinners are paid for by DePaul as part of your program fee. And then others, we're just on our own. But some afternoons, we actually have visits to institutions, okay? So we might visit, for example, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. We might visit a law firm. We always visit these institutions. We also visit an NGO different from Professor Rodriguez's that handles up to 150 human rights cases every year on all kinds of issues, okay? And so we visit a number of institutions, and when we do that, we provide transportation. We take you there, we visit the institution. All the courses, by the way, are in English. All the visits are explained in English. And then, we'll be back. We'd be back on that day. We might be back by 6 or 7 p.m. So, that's a full day. And then, we give you weekends, okay? Your weekends are free. And Costa Rica is really one of the most beautiful countries in the world. It's known as the greenest country in the world because 25% of it is protected by law against commercial development. And so, if your thing is rainforests, they have some amazing rainforests in Costa Rica to visit. If you like to see some real volcanoes, Costa Rica has plenty of beautiful volcanoes. If you rather go to the beach, Costa Rica has lots of beautiful beaches, both on the Atlantic side, on the Caribbean, and on the Pacific side. And then there are also a lot of other cultural institutions that are fun to visit. For example, if you like coffee, if coffee is one of your favorite drinks, Costa Rica is one of the world's best coffee producing nations. So you can visit a coffee farm and learn about how coffee is cultivated, what it takes to cultivate it, what it takes to pick up the crop, harvest the crop, and then how it is processed into the final product. You get to do that, as any time you want. So we have these activities, course-related activities very much during the weekday, and then on weekends, you are free to go sightseeing to these amazing places. And some students choose to just stay around in Heredia where our university is, and there's still plenty to do there. Students usually, divide themselves very informally on weekends, and let's say 3 or 4 students might say, hey, I want to, why don't we go and see Monteverde rainforest? And so they'll organize a little trip and off they go to Monteverde rainforest. And a few others might say, well, I'd rather go to the beach. Who's up for going to the beach? And then, 3 or 4 might say, okay, let's go to the beach. And they'll do that. And there are other activities like water rafting, for example. There's a great water rafting place not too far from where we are. It's an all-day excursion that students often enjoy doing. There's also zip lining, which is a lot of fun to do if you've never done it. So there's plenty to do in addition to the academic work, okay? So I told you about Professor Rodriguez's course. My course is very much focused also on human rights in Latin America. Like Professor Rodriguez, I'm a lawyer. I teach at the law school. I also have a PhD in foreign affairs, and I served in government for many years. And my course is focused on 3 things. So first, we're going to look at some of the factors that make human rights complicated in Latin America. So we're going to look at issues like the history of the region, economic inequalities. We're going to look at the quality of government services, government corruption, high levels of crime and violence in the region. Latin America has these peculiar issues that help to explain, and one of them, by the way, is economic inequality, that help us to explain why human rights are a challenge in the region for many countries, okay? So we'll look at those, and then I'm also going to give you a good introduction to some of the key human rights treaties, okay? International human rights law treaties, to help you become very comfortable with them so that, you're not scared when somebody talks about the Genocide Convention. You say, well, what is that and how difficult it is? Genocide Convention is 8 pages long, okay? And we're going to go through it, just take it apart. You're going to, learn the definition of genocide. You're going to learn about the Torture Convention, for example, definition of torture under international law. We're going to look at the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. So just some key foundational human rights law treaties to give you a good foundation. And then the third thing we do is we look at some case studies. So we're going to look at Guatemala, we're going to look at Colombia, and we're going to look at Cuba. 3 very different case studies involving different kinds of human rights violations, different kinds of human rights challenges. So when you come out of the course, you should be, I would say you would be a lot more sophisticated about human rights than 99% of your peers, okay, in this country. But you also have, I think, a more thoughtful appreciation for human rights law and for Latin America as a different part of the world. And that plus cultural experience being in Costa Rica. And that leads me to my next point, which is housing. So we strongly urge, especially the undergraduates participating in this program. So we have law students mixed with undergraduates in this program, okay? And it's been very successful. And I can tell you sometimes, okay, I always mention her because she's like the perfect example of this. About 4 years ago, the best student in the whole program, okay, and we had about 15 students that year, was somebody who had just finished her freshman year at DePaul, okay? And she had the highest grade in the class. She was really, really good, okay? So, I run this at a good, serious level, okay? But, we're accepting, those students that we accept into the program, we accept them because A, you have good grades, B, because you're serious, okay? If I had the feeling that, hey, you're just going to Costa Rica to play around and go drinking in the bars and be a beach bum on the weekends, I wouldn't take you, okay? But everybody that I accept, okay, has decent grades, very serious, okay, about why they want to be there, okay? And thirdly, you have, throughout, I interview everybody that wants to go on the program. you have a desire to learn more about the world, to learn about a different culture and to experience and live that culture. So those are really the key attributes to success in the program. But my point is, we really urge all the undergraduates to stay with families, okay? Now, sometimes we make exceptions, okay? So for example, a couple of years ago, we made an exception. We had a student who had some health issues, and she said, look, because of these health issues, I really don't want to stay with a family. I want to have, I want to rent an Airbnb and be there by myself. And I said, fine, that's okay. So we do grant exceptions. One thing I also want to make very clear is, if you want to have family join you for the program, you want to have friends, significant others visit you while you're there, we welcome friends, we welcome family. This is a friendly program, and some students actually, they've had friends visit them while they're there. They've also, some of them have had family visit them while they're there, and then they go off on the weekends to their family or their friends, and they have a great time. But we strongly encourage the undergraduates to stay with families for two reasons. Number one, because the families are really nice to them. We have a long record of family stays. And what happens is our host university will send us to give to you a questionnaire. And you fill that out, and they'll ask you things about, any food allergies, any particular health issues to watch out for. Like, some people might say, I'm deadly allergic to cats and dogs. Okay, that's good to know. Or, I'm a vegetarian. Okay, that's very good to know, et cetera, okay? And then you fill that questionnaire, and our host university matches you with a nice family. The family picks you up at the airport, and they really take you under their wing. I mean, Costa Rican families are very, very protective. And I have to say, if my daughter were your age, I would be very, very happy having her stay with the Costa Rican family, because the families really take our students in, and they're very loving, very, very, very kind to them. So it's been a very, very positive experience. And on top of that, it's a great deal financially, because, it's a very, very reasonable. It's not going to be much more than about $1,000, okay? And that covers your lodging during your 3 weeks there, plus at least a meal a day. Sometimes some families offer 2 meals a day. So, but definitely you'll have nice breakfast taken care of, and sometimes even breakfast and lunch. So it's a very good deal financially, but also it will give you a nice anchor, to be there while you are, going to class and participating in the program. And they're also, a great wealth of ideas, like some say, well, my host family told me that on such and such a date, there's this festival going on, all kinds of ideas. Or my host family wants to take me to see these amazing waterfalls, whatever. The chemistry is quite wonderful. So I'll stop right now. I think I've addressed some of the key issues, but now it's time for you to ask questions of me.
Yeah, and actually, before we do that, let me go into my last couple slides, and then we'll definitely take questions. So let me share my screen again here. So application information. A number of you have already applied, so this doesn't really apply as much, but I know not everybody here has necessarily applied. We've extended the application deadline till the end of May, 30th of May. You basically go to the Costa Rica program page on our website and complete the application questionnaire there. It's pretty straightforward. And then there is scholarship funding available for some students. For law students, there's an automatic tuition discount that's part of the tuition charge for the program. For undergraduate students, you'll automatically be considered for our study abroad scholarships when you apply to the program. And we award those based on financial need and GPA. So the students who would be able to get some scholarship funding have a high GPA and have strong financial need. And we find that out from our financial aid office. And when you apply to the program, we kind of are accepting people on a rolling basis. So once you've applied, you should find out shortly thereafter if you've been accepted or not. And then just cost-wise, the actual program fee that you're charged is relatively low because a lot of the big costs for this program are not included in that program fee. So it's a $625 program fee, and that covers all of your course activities and excursions, some on-site transportation. There are 3 group meals that are paid for, materials, and then you have international travel health and accident insurance. On top of that,
yeah, and the health insurance is important because DePaul University offers you that. Scott, if I may interrupt you for a minute.
yeah, please.
And the city where we stay has a first-rate hospital at Heredia. It was finished about 10 years ago, and it's a wonderful hospital, you know, and occasionally one of our students will have a health issue. I mean, we've had students who've twisted their ankles. We've had students sometimes who forget to use sunblock. They get bad sunburns. So we've had a little bit of everything. And they go, sometimes students get dehydrated because they don't drink enough water. And they've gone to the hospital there and they've received, I mean, truly first-rate medical care. So I wanted to point that out. And again, your DePaul health insurance would cover that.
Thank you, Alberto. The other thing I'll mention as well, we still are in times of COVID. And so that's, you know, information we're going to send you more about, but also our insurance policy does cover if someone were to test positive for COVID and has to do something in terms of adjusting their flights or isolation for meals or things like that. It does have coverage of up to $2,000 for expenses related to transportation or isolation, lodging, or meals related to COVID. So that's another really important reason why we have you enrolled in that. Not included in that program fee are you have to take care of your own airfare to Costa Rica, and we'll give you the dates when you have to be there and can leave, but that's on your own. As Alberto mentioned, accommodations, if you do take advantage of the host family option, which I'll be the first to back him up on that. I'm strongly encouraged. I've had a ton of host family situations in my life where I've lived abroad with host families, and it is the best way to get to know a place. But if that is something you should take advantage of, we will talk to you about the cost on that and figure out billing you to that as well. There's a few group meals provided, but otherwise meals are on your own. And then just, you know, personal expenses and other things that you do. And then the other piece of the cost that's really important to know is you're going to be registered in the coursework over the summer. So for undergraduate students in particular, this is not part of your normal yearly tuition that you pay for fall and winter and spring. Your undergrad students will have 8 credit hours over the summer, and that would be billed at the regular pricing cost that you would pay for 8 credit hours, which will vary depending on when you came into DePaul and what that rate is. But I think it's probably in the sort of $5,000 to $6,000 range when you look at I think it's around like $700 a credit hour times 8. But again, those will be 2 courses that knock out 2 of your LSP requirements. So the hope would be that doing these 2 courses over the summer may mean that you can graduate 1 quarter earlier. So that money you're spending over the summer would be money saved by hopefully being able to graduate a little bit sooner. Because you are taking a full 8 credits over the summer, you can get financial aid to help for subsidize that. So that's a situation where you will get in touch with our financial aid office and they will work with you on how your financial aid package would help cover these credit hours over the summer. For law students, if any of you are law students, it's 5 semester credit hours. And we do give an automatic discount in that to make the pricing a little bit more like the undergrad pricing as well. Normally those 5 semester credit hours would be significantly more. We give an automatic discount to bring that down to this pricing of $54.34. Yes, so yes, questions from people now. Please.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Questions? You know, once in a while, students ask me about safety. Okay, so you know, if you read, if you read about Central America, South America, you know, Costa Rica is about the safest country. Okay, in Central and South America. But I always tell the students, you still need to use common sense, okay? So I always tell the students, nobody should be walking around alone at night, okay? You don't do that in Chicago, right? Now, Chicago is, of course, a lot more violent place, seriously, in terms of crime, the crime rate than Costa Rica, but still, just common sense precautions that you would use here, you would use there. You know, we don't want anybody walking around at night alone. If you're going to be walking around at night, you should walk around with several people, okay? And that's a very basic rule of thumb, okay? And other than that, you know, the town is safe. You don't want to take any, you know, expensive jewelry with you. If you have a fancy watch, you know, why tempt anybody, okay? as far as, losing it or having it. So just leave it home. Just take, a nice, you could take your iPhone, you could take your laptop, things like that. But again, just use common sense. So that's the basic rule. But as far as safety, when you look at the whole region, it's about, I'd say, Costa Rica and Uruguay, both very small countries, by the way, are the safest countries in the whole region. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in my last job I had before I worked at DePaul, I worked with a program in Costa Rica, and I went down and did a site visit for a couple of weeks. And yeah, it was a wonderful environment, felt very safe. And as you mentioned before, the people are so welcoming and accommodating, nice. Just wonderful, lovely people. And again, that host family experience is going to be such a meaningful part of the program.
Yeah, I mean, very, very, I always like to tell people, Costa Rica is the only country in the world in which when you get out of a taxi, let's say, about 1/3 of the time, the taxi driver will say, "God bless you." I mean, think about that. It's kind of a very sweet, tells you a lot about the people there. Very peaceful country. They abolished their army in 1948. So Costa Rica really has not had any political violence. It's not experienced political violence in 1948. You could do the math. That's over 74 years. Okay, where in the world can you say that? And so it's kind of part of the culture. This peacefulness again, and this kind of gentleness about the culture. Mm-hmm.
And it's a pretty small country, but a very diverse country in terms of, as you mentioned, on the weekends when you have free time, it's very easy. You can go a couple hours, you're at the beach, a couple hours, you're in the mountains. So you got a lot of variety of the types of things you can do on the weekends when you do have some free time. Any other questions?
Questions?
Yeah,
yes. Jennifer, hi.
Hi. What's the estimate for the homestay? What would you say?
So the homestay, we haven't received yet the exact figure, but it's usually not much more than about $1,000, okay? And that covers the lodging. So basically the program lasts 3 weeks and 2 days to be precise, okay? So that covers all the lodging, and it covers at least 1 meal a day. Okay, sometimes the family will throw in a couple of meals. As soon as we have the exact figure, I'll send it to all of you, but it's really not going to be very far from that number. Okay.
And the host families pick them up from the airport as well, right?
Yeah. So if you do the math, you see the days of lodging and the meal or 2 meals, and then the families often go out of their way. They always pick up the students at the airport, but sometimes they go out of their way. Sometimes they even give them rides to class and things like that. It's just a tremendous bargain financially. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you.
Allison.
So I know that because, oh, sorry, my camera freezes sometimes. There it goes. So I know because the program starts on like a Thursday, it's recommended to maybe get there like a couple of days before, so you're not arriving the day classes start. If you're staying with a host family, can you be with them a few days before, or are you? Is it up to you to get your housing before and then they start?
No. So I mean, first of all, so if you get there on Wednesday, you'll be fine. Okay, so you get there on Wednesday. The program starts on a Thursday, so if you get there on a Wednesday, you're fine. Okay. And there are lots of flights to Costa Rica. You can check them out, but there are flights usually from Chicago. They would involve some kind of change of flights. Okay. So, but you have direct flights from Houston, Texas, from Fort Lauderdale, from Miami, from Atlanta, Los Angeles. I mean, you name it. It's just all kinds of places that you can get there. But yeah, so the recommendation be get there Wednesday, and then you'll be ready to go on Thursday. And of course, the host families would expect you to be there. That would be covered, from Wednesday. And then the program is over on Friday around noonish, noon. So if you're able to leave Costa Rica that afternoon, you're free to do that if you, but again, your stay with the host family would cover through the next day, that following day, Saturday, and then, and then you leave that Saturday, the day after, okay? Yeah. If for any reason you'd want to get there earlier or stay later, you can work, we're happy to work that out with the host family individually and say, okay, how much more would you charge Allison if she wants to stay, 3 days later, or she wants to get in 3 days earlier? And I'm sure they'd be very reasonable. Okay, so just you work out a special arrangement for those extra days that you'll be with them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, Jennifer.
Yes, Jennifer.
Hi, thank you. So if you're interested in excursions on the weekends to the rainforest, volcanoes, etc., is there any way to get assistance with that as far as knowing like how to arrange the details and where to stay and things like that? Okay, so there are a lot of, first of all, so there are different ways of doing it. Okay, so some students will actually, let's say 3 or 4 of them get together and say, okay, we want to go to see, let's say, the Monteverde rainforest, okay? So that's something that will require an overnight stay. I mean, most of the time, because, you got to drive there and then there's a lot to see. So, you don't want to, cut that short and then come back the next day. So there are lots of tour operators that will actually take you, okay? And then students will, split that fee amongst themselves, okay? Sometimes also students will, let's say, hire a driver, okay? The driver will take them there to a lodge, right at the edge of the rainforest. They stay at the lodge, they do their sightseeing, they eat their meals at the lodge, and then the driver picks them up again and brings them back. So that's another way of doing it. And then sometimes, the more enterprising students will say, okay, let's take a bus there. You can actually take a bus. You can take a bus. It's a little town, a couple of little towns right at the edge of the rainforest. Take a bus to the little town. They stay there, find accommodations, they eat their meals there. And then, plenty of ways to see the whole rainforest, whether you want to do it with a tour guide or not. You could do it on your own. Nowadays, with the internet, there are lots of guides to the rainforest that you can find online. So you really don't need a tour guide to do that. But if you want to hire one, they can right there on the spot. And then when they're done, the following day, whatever, then they take the regular bus back to Heredia. So buses in Costa Rica are really inexpensive. They're clean and they work. Okay. So I've used them and students use them a lot. And, they work and they're clean and they take you wherever you need to go. You can find a bus that will take you there. So these are very different options, okay, that you have. Yes, so for water rafting, the students usually wind up actually hiring a company, so there are many companies that offer water rafting. And so the company will send a shuttle that will pick them up at 6 in the morning, take them somewhere for a nice breakfast, then they'll take them to the river. They'll give them a training in basic water safety, and then they'll do the water rafting, which goes on for several hours, and then they'll give them a big meal, and then they'll take them back, and they'll be back, wiped out around 8 p.m. That evening. So again, that's more for water rafting. Water rafting could be done as a one-day thing. Mm-hmm. For say Monteverde rainforest, it's going to be a 2-day trip. It's something you do on, and a lot of them do it. They just take the bus if they want to do it that way. Mm-hmm. Okay, great, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions before we wrap up? All right.
Yeah, and as I said, you're welcome if to have family, friends come and visit you. Turns out to be a nice time of the year for that because it's summertime. And, you know, a lot of students have fun, you know, having their friends or their family visit them. But in the meantime, you know, if you have any more questions that come to mind, reach out to me, reach out to Scott. And we're here to help you. We're here to answer your questions. We're here, you know, if you have any questions about how the financial aid process works, you know, we'll refer you to the right people. So,
yeah. For those of you who've been accepted and you're kind of in the process of making your decision about moving forward, just, yeah, let us know what questions you have. And once you make your decision, you go on the website and click the little button that says whether you're going to move forward or not. For those of you who haven't finished your application yet, we just encourage you to do that as soon as possible. The sooner you do that, the sooner we're able to accept you and kind of move on to next steps. So, Allison.
Really quick, because the deadline for the application got extended, does that mean the acceptance got extended as well, or is that still May 1st?
If you were accepted and you had a deadline, everybody's deadline of when they need to let us know, it depends on when they were accepted, because we're kind of another rolling basis. So if you need a little extra time from what that deadline was that I gave you, just let me know, and I'm happy to give you some extra time. You know, the sooner that we know all the people that are moving forward and doing it, you know, we're going to get to a point where we've got enough students who have said they're going to move forward that we know we can run the program. And at that point, that's when we let everybody who's been accepted and committed know, hey, we've got enough people to run the program. You can start making your plans now. You can start booking your flights. And so we kind of, it's a little bit of a waiting game until everybody gets accepted, makes their decisions. We'll hit that point where we've got a critical mass of students, and then we'll send a big email out that says, all right, go ahead, make your flight plans. We'll start getting everything arranged. So.
Yeah.
All right.
But, you know, in the meantime, for example, if you're accepted and if you commit, then we can start lining you up with your host family, you know, instead of leaving it to us. In other words, we don't have, you can at least fill out that questionnaire. We can send it to our university partner and they can say, okay, this particular family would love to host you, you know. So it really helps, as Scott said, to get the paperwork process. It makes everything easier. You know, the program has been running every year since 2005. So it's hard for me to think that we're not going to have enough students to run it this year. But what often happens is that students put off till the last minute committing. And so the university says, well, you know, until we have that critical mass, we cannot, you know, give the green light for it to go. So it kind of holds everybody up. On the other hand, you know, we understand everybody's circumstances are different. So if you need a little flexibility, please reach out to Scott. He's wonderfully flexible. He'll give you the flexibility that you need. But on the other hand, you know, be mindful that the sooner everybody commits, then we can actually go forward and not wait, you know, till the last minute. So I'm very confident that this is going to go forward. We're going to go forward. It's never not gone forward, except, you know, the 2 COVID years were an exception. We knew that in advance. So in 2020, in March, you know, we knew we're not going to do Costa Rica. And last year also, we're not going to do Costa Rica, okay? The COVID situation in Costa Rica right now is very nice. It's very managed, very well managed. So it's not an issue. But again, we just don't want to have everybody waiting till the last minute and then just making life unnecessarily complicated for everybody else, okay?
The other piece of that as well, once you've committed to the program and we've got enough students that we know we're moving forward, that's the point at which our office as well will register for you for the classes. So we will do that. You don't register yourself. Once we've got everybody, I will send out a big email, get you registered in the classwork that you need to be in, and then we go from there with that.
And, you know, one thing that Scott pointed out, I think it's important to keep in mind is that taking these credits in the summer, you know, first of all, it's a great deal because you're getting these 8 credits in a very compressed period of time, okay? But also it means you may be able to graduate earlier, you know, so that's an advantage too. Yeah, it was great to see you, Madeline. So anyway, keep that in mind, okay? Because, you know, you can look at that number and say, oh, you know, that's money, but you may save that and much more money if you graduate earlier from the fall than you otherwise would have. So.
All right.
Just one quick question.
Yes.
If we have questions and we'd like to ask Professor Cole, is your email acole@depaul.edu?
Exactly,
Okay.
Jennifer. Yes, ACOLL.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Please reach out, okay? And anybody, everybody's welcome to reach out. And so I hope you do, okay?
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank
and we'll be in
you.
touch.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day. Bye-bye.